Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our first ever Alumni Professional Development webinar. This is the first of a three-part series that will take place this year, granting you access to amazing young professionals and C-suite leaders. My name is Chanel Nelson, and I am the Central Penn Alumni Professional Development Committee Chair. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. Please be sure to mute your phones or computer devices and turn off your videos. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the chat box in the control panel, and I will bring them up at the end during our Q&A portion. Today's webinar topic is career navigation, which will be presented by Habiba Bankston. Habiba is a Senior Community Relations Specialist for L Brands and the President of the Columbus Urban League Professionals. A native of Brooklyn, New York, Habiba graduated from the Ohio State University in 2010 and is dedicated to serving as an advocate for the growth, development, and empowerment of women and young professionals. So now, without further ado, we will turn the presentation over to Habiba.
Thanks, Chanel. Good evening, everybody. I'm excited about this opportunity. Thank you again for logging on. We're going to have a really good conversation about early career navigation. As Chanel mentioned, I'm a Senior Community Relations Specialist at L Brands. Prior to my role at L Brands, I worked at The Ohio State University for about 6 years, and I graduated from OSU, started working for the university immediately after. In the 6 years of my professional career, I know that it doesn't seem too long, but I've learned a lot. And I'm excited to share some of the strategies that I've learned with you all tonight and hope that it'll help you as you navigate through your careers as young professionals. So we can jump right in. All right, so I like to refer to the early stages of your career as grind time. That's the time that you're building your network, your brand, your resume, and your experience. Career navigation and success is defined differently for everybody, but no matter what your goals are, honestly, the key to achieving a strong career navigation and success is launching it on a strong foundation. So to jumpstart it, I believe that really understanding and being aware of the unwritten rules will help all young professionals early on in their career as they're navigating the professional world. Now, when I say unwritten rules, those are the things you won't learn in the classroom. Your professors probably won't share with you, and you also won't learn it on the first day at the job when you're onboarding, when you're meeting team members and even your supervisor. These are the things that are you're going to have to learn through trial and error, but also connecting with other people to get a sense of the culture of your workplace and what to expect. So some unwritten rules that I've listed here is networking and building relationships within and outside of the organization. And that could be through networks or affinity groups with mentors, supervisors, or other influential individuals who can just share knowledge. And when I say knowledge, I mean what it takes to advance as well as a way to gain access to opportunities, including the chance to become more known within your organization. Finding ways to become visible, so seeking out more assignments or projects within your company or within your team are great ways to really get noticed by leadership. Also, I'm really good about having a coffee chat with other colleagues within my company at L Brands, or other leaders who aren't necessarily on my team, because having other people within your organization know you, it goes a long way because people do talk. Playing politics and lobbying for yourself in your work, very critical things, and we'll dive into that a little bit more in some of the later slides. Communicating effectively and asking for a lot of feedback. So me personally, I'm a glutton for feedback. It's something that I need. I like to be self-aware, and I think requesting feedback, not just from colleagues and your supervisors, it really helps me to tune my self-awareness skills and just me being mindful about how I'm carrying myself, how I'm showing up, and also the product of my performance. Next is performing well and producing results. So it is key to have a network and to build strong relationships with people, to have mentors and sponsors and things like that. But if at baseline you're not performing well and the product that you're producing doesn't match your personality or the type of person that you are, it's kind of for naught. Find a mentor, a coach, a sponsor, and we'll dive into this a little bit more in some of the later slides. And lastly, develop a career plan, which is something we'll also talk a little bit more about in the later slides. So what most professionals wish they knew early in their careers. A lot of the things listed here are things that I mentioned in the previous slide. You'll be surprised how many people graduate from college, start their careers, but there's still so much they don't know about the workplace and about how to navigate it. Now, it's a little bit different depending across whatever company, organization that you work with, but a lot of those rules and strategies are pretty baseline across the board. But because unwritten rules are not always equally accessible to all employees, they can create barriers for some people. So it's so important to be aware and to know what these unwritten rules are, and to seek guidance on how you can make sure that you don't stumble and you don't fall when it comes to some of these things. But just to read down the list really quickly, understanding, again, organizational politics, becoming visible and advocating for yourself and for your work, planning career goals and careers and your career in advance, learning about the next steps and having conversations with leadership about next steps, the importance of social networks and networking effectively, keyword effectively, because there are bad ways that you can network, and also finding a good mentor, a coach, and a sponsor, which is a critical piece to this entire presentation, the mentor, the coach, and the sponsor. So politics. I've listed the formal definition of it, which is the process of using an informal network to gain power and accomplish tasks to meet a person's wants or needs. Now, 6 years ago, in starting my professional career, I was not aware of organizational politics, how it played into just your career, how it can impact you and things like that. It's something that I really had to learn through trial and error, and also with the guidance and support of mentors who kind of talked me through how to navigate office politics. Again, that's kind of different depending on where you work and what the culture is, but it's something to definitely be aware of, and being comfortable in having conversations with mentors to kind of guide you through how to navigate through office politics. So mentors, coaches, and sponsors. Again, if you don't take anything else away from this presentation, keep in mind that you've got to have a mentor, a coach, and a sponsor. Mentors and coaches, in my opinion, they kind of fall into the same box. They're individuals who help you to achieve your personal and your professional goals by by training you, by advising you, and by guiding you. Now, sponsors are a little bit different. That's someone who will vouch for you and also promote you, whether you're in the room or out of the room. I have a mentor, a coach, and a sponsor. I think all three are extremely critical, and it's something that can truly help you move through your professional career. They can help you in sitting down and planning out your career plan, and not just the plan, but the action steps in order to get there, and also connecting you. Mentors and sponsors can help you build your network. That I've been lucky to have a long list of mentors and also sponsors, and I think where I am right now in my professional career speaks a lot to the guidance that I've been able to have. So next, develop a career plan. You got to do your homework and figure out what your career path and what your goals are. I try to advise people to revise their career goals annually, and to discuss it with coaches and mentors to create the action steps on how you're going to get there. Because it's okay to sit down and create a plan by saying, I want to be promoted within the next 2 years. Well, what are the action steps? Exactly how are you going to get there? And again, it's different based off of where you work, but having those open lines of communication with your supervisors and talking to colleagues who have moved up to see what those steps were, having all of those conversations, I think, are really important when you're developing that career plan. But making sure that you have one is the first step. I know when I first graduated from Ohio State and starting my career, it was a little bit scary and overwhelming in developing this plan, but it was definitely necessary in my growth. And as I've switched positions and moved up the ladder, I've always had to change it. Next, so we talked a lot about some of the unwritten rules, but a lot of people, again, don't know how to discover these rules, and just how to gain access and to become aware. So I've listed a few things here that can kind of help you in being aware of these unwritten rules and also to be prepared for it. So gaining access. How do you gain access? Through informal networks. Again, those are your mentors, your supervisors, your colleagues, professional networks within your organization, sometimes outside of your organization, mentors, coaches, sponsors, the people that will kind of talk you through some of these unwritten rules and how you can work around them and navigate them. Another thing is learning strategies. So observing others who have either really been successful in their careers, but some who haven't. Try to pay attention to what people are doing right and what people are doing wrong. That is something that I have done in my professional career, and it's helped me a great deal. And it could be the littlest things, like how folks show up to work, how they're communicating via email, how quickly they respond to email. It's just those little nuances that you wouldn't think people pay attention to. They definitely do. So you should pay attention to them as well. Individual feedback and performance evaluations. Definitely take advantage of that time to discover some of those things that your supervisor or your boss or your manager is really paying attention to, because those play into those unwritten rules. Also, trial and error. So I know I mentioned that before in regards to politics. Starting off your career, you're going to fail a couple of times, you're going to fall a lot, but I think that's just a part of the professional process. But I think participating in webinars and workshops similar to this will help you as you're navigating early in your career. Also, again, just observing written and verbal interactions. So next, building professional networks. This is another thing that I'm hoping you take away from this evening's presentation. Building professional networks are crucial. I know when I was first starting off my career, someone said to me, like, it's really not about what you know or what you learned or what your degree says. Sometimes it really is about who you know, who you're connected to, and who can speak on your behalf. So building a professional network, you definitely have to be social. Like, that is the key to building a professional network. And starting off in your career, make yourself available to go to happy hours, to have lunch with other colleagues, to go to community events, or if you hear folks that you might work with planning to do certain things or office outings, like, it's really important to participate in those things because that helps you build your professional network. And don't just focus on the things that are within your company. Definitely focus on connecting to people just throughout your community because, again, places can be really small sometimes, and circles can be small as well. So getting connected any way that you can to folks within and outside of your organization will definitely help you in building your professional network. Volunteering. So this is something that no one really taught me, but it's something that I've always personally been committed to, and it's worked out a great deal for me. I think a huge piece of my professional growth has come from volunteering and serving and giving my time, because through that I've met so many people, or I've been able to showcase my talent through volunteerism, which has helped to provide career opportunities, and it's partially the reason why I'm currently at L Brands doing community relations and philanthropy, because it's been through the philanthropy and things that I've done within the community. So don't take volunteerism for granted, and that could be serving 1 or 2 hours at a church or a food kitchen or at your local Y, but you can dig deeper into that too. Pay attention to some of the things that you're personally interested in. Find nonprofit organizations or whatever companies within your community that kind of speak to the things that you want to do. Also pay attention to organizations, nonprofit organizations that are doing a lot in the community and that are visible, because you'll be surprised what other influential people are connected to those organizations. And think about serving on a committee for one of their events, or consider joining a nonprofit board or a community board. That's another great way to get connected to influential people. Here in the city of Columbus, I serve on about 4 different boards. And I know that sounds like a lot, especially considering I do have a full-time job, but again, you'll be surprised how important those external connections will play into your professional work and your professional career. Be genuine. So I think a lot of people look at networking the wrong way. I know some people just make it a goal to hand their business cards out to as many people as they can see, or making sure that they're handing out their information to as many people that they can see, but you definitely have to be genuine. It takes time to really build your professional network. So once you make that connection, I think the biggest thing is just following up and staying in touch and really trying to have genuine conversation when you do meet people, because those are the things that are going to help you when it is time to follow up. How much are you remembering from the conversation that you have with these people? And it'll also play into how you stay connected. Last thing I want to mention about this is leveraging people in your network to help it grow. So I think a lot of folks just try to figure out, how can I meet as many people as possible just to add to my Rolodex? But say you aren't necessarily the type of person that likes to go out to socials or a lot of events, your family structure or your schedule just doesn't permit it. You already know a good number of people. Staying connected to those who are already in your network, and being free to ask them to connect you to other people, I think is key. So conflict and how it impacts your career growth. And I've listed a picture here, which is one of my favorite pictures. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen it. But it says, emotions are temporary, is a temporary state of mind. Don't let them permanently destroy you. And that's one of my favorite quotes because it's definitely true. I personally know a lot of people, and I've worked with a lot of folks who let their emotions get the best of them, and in that temporary moment, you might act out, say the wrong thing, respond to an email the wrong way, and you'll be surprised how those interactions and those behaviors can follow you. So I really wanted to include in here information about conflict, how you can flip it around to work for you, how you can turn it into collaboration. Because you don't want one slight second of a disagreement or a misunderstanding to really change the course of what your professional career can look like. And it's so important for young professionals and folks who are just starting out in their career to get a sense of this, so you know how to navigate it. So I've listed a few things here. The potential for conflict exists within every relationship, be it between individuals or businesses. So I've listed the usual outcomes of conflict. That's avoidance, competition, compromise, accommodation. All of those things typically come out of difficult situations within the workspace. But I want to talk about how we can transform conflict into collaboration. So although the usual outcomes of conflict have negative connotations, they don't have to. Collaboration, I think, is a long-term solution, and it's just a really good result for everybody who's involved. And I know that might sound cliche, but just stick with me on this one. So how to turn conflict into collaboration. The first step is really just being open to the thought of collaboration and not holding on to whatever you're upset about. So I've listed a few things here that can help in making that happen. You got to change your attitude. Changing your attitude is the first step to collaboration. Listen to everybody around the table or to all those who are involved. I think communication is key when there is a disagreement, especially in the office place, and it's with folks that you have to work with. Like, you can't avoid them. You're going to have to work with them. So trying to find some common ground and just getting a good understanding of where the other person is coming from is key. Remove emotion. So I love to say that emotion is the killer of productivity and progression. I think in regards to business and to work and to the professional space, you have to leave your emotions at the door. Do not let them get the best of you, and don't let them take the front seat to your intelligence and what you know you need to do. You got to separate the issues from your emotions and give full attention to the facts, because the facts are the only things that are important, especially when you're in a professional setting. Next, search for a common ground. So I think I mentioned this a little bit when we talked about listening to everybody around the table. Figure out what's going to work for everyone involved, or at least in regards to the situation. Reach an agreement. I love to agree to disagree if that is the case with whatever the situation is. But how do we talk through what the problem is and figure out how we can just make sure it doesn't happen again? What did you do wrong in the situation? What did the other person do wrong in the situation? And considering that you have to work together, figuring that out early will help you as other projects and other responsibilities come down the line. And set goals. To bring a collaborative effort to fruition, words should be translated into actions for sure. Setting short-term and long-term goals within a framework of time and achieving milestones is really, really important. So I hope these are a few things that will help you in the instances that you may go through conflict with a colleague or a supervisor or a manager or someone across your business. All right, moving on. So collaboration, again, is an ongoing process, and I really wanted to stress that for it to be successful, the exercise of finding common ground, making agreements, and setting goals should be repeated over and over until it becomes a habit. And that is true because, again, collaboration in regards to conflict is an attitude shift and a mind shift. Time management. So one of the most important skills, I think, of any professional, time management is essential for effective leadership. You may have to try a couple different techniques to figure out what works best for you, but honing your time management skills and your organizational skills is crucial to career navigation or just career growth, period. Nobody wants to give more responsibility to the person who doesn't know how to manage their time or get things done on time. So I listed a few things here that have worked for me and a lot of the people that I'm connected to. So you got to schedule your tasks out. And I think it sounds a little easier than it actually is, but something that I do, I try to plan my day, my week, and sometimes even my month out. I'm a visual person. I need to physically see what I have to do. So whether it's at my office at work or my office at home, I try to list out all of my responsibilities or the things I know I want to prioritize and get done. On my calendar, whether it's on my phone or the calendar that sits at my desk. Scheduling tasks releases positive energy and it reduces anxiety. I'm the type of person, like, I will literally have anxiety during my sleep, wondering about the things that I did not get done or knowing about the things that are coming up that I have to do. Improve your organizational skills. So I'm really old-fashioned. I like to use a filing system, whether that's at my work office or my home office. But you'll be surprised how filing things, alphabetizing things, whether that's on your phone, on your computer, or if you're a paper person like me, it just helps to keep you organized, and that is critical. Another thing, start early. Starting your day early increases productivity. You can have more time to sit, think, and plan. The earlier you start your day, the more productive and organized you'll become. And as a result of that, people who start their day early, they're just more effective. So I've been spending time, and I read a lot of books on how to manage my time and how to continue to be effective when it comes to organization. And it recommends like using one day of the week, primarily Sundays, to just sit down and plan your work week out, plan your schedule, whether that's professional or personal. You'll see the difference in how your week flows by just taking the time to just write out and plan out the things that you have to do for the week. Next thing is lessen your email time. So I'm sure I'm not the only person, but I have to say I probably get close to 100 emails a day because that's just the quick and constant form of communication. I think now, so I try my best to really plan the time that I respond to emails, whether that's checking it at the beginning of the day, before lunch, or at the end of the day. Email can be extremely distracting, and it can take away from the high priority work. And I can speak specifically to my work at L Brands. It's very fast paced. And if you're in a position where you have to multitask and do a variety of things on a daily basis, emails can be extremely distracting. So carving out specific time where you actually look at your emails and you actually respond to them, I think is really important. And it gives you that time for ideation and just to get other important things done so you don't find yourself bringing work home, which was my story at the very beginning of my career. Being so young and feeling like I had to prove myself, I either spent long hours in the office trying to catch up on the things that I didn't get done between 9 and 5, or I found myself bringing work home. Terrible work-life balance behaviors that I would not encourage any of you to take on. So I think just being really strategic about how you're spending your time and carving time out for certain things will be really helpful. Another thing, preparing in advance. So preparing your task list for the following day, the night before, is a tip that I use and I also give other people. And I know I mentioned it a little bit before, but it just helps productivity and it helps you stay ahead of the things that you have coming up. Another thing, so I like to refer to air travel productivity. So I travel a lot for work sometimes, and rather than napping as most people do or reading for leisure as I think others do, I try to maximize the time that I'm in the air. I read a recent study that found that 1 hour of uninterrupted work time is an airplane yielding equivalent of 3 hours of work in a normal work environment. So the time that you can just spend in the airplane and focus on what the tasks are, responding to emails, planning things out, what have you. I want to say the most productive when I'm flying. So I try to take that behavior back to my normal life. So if that is something that you can take on, I would really encourage it. Try to find that hour or that 2 hours of uninterrupted time. Put your phone on airplane mode and just work, just zone out. Another thing I would mention is prime time productivity. So I think everybody has this, but there's like a certain time of the day that you just work your best, you're most productive, and you work most efficiently. You brainstorm easily, you just get it done. I'm a night owl, so typically my prime time productivity is sometimes between the hours of like 9 and 2 a.m. Super random, but that's when I can just get it in. So take time to learn yourself, figure out when your prime time productivity is, and try to schedule or set priorities around that time because you know it's when you do your best work. So that's a tip that I've used and I wanted to pass that on. So time management and life balance. If we're going to talk about how we can maximize our performance, the products we're putting out at work, and how we can just work more efficiently, I wanted to make sure that we talked about work-life balance and how you have to prioritize other aspects of your life just as much as you prioritize work. It's really important, I think, for young professionals or just people who are starting off in their career. Sometimes new professionals believe that they have to work longer hours or volunteer for every single project or opportunity to prove themselves. And again, I know I mentioned that early on in my career, that's exactly what I was doing, but I think to the point of burnout, and that's not what you want to do. You want to try to develop healthy and smart habits early on, because it gets harder as you grow in the personal and professional aspects of your life. The changes that just come with life, whether that's marriage or having kids or promotion and more responsibility, getting a good sense of work-life balance, which is a day-to-day thing. It isn't like a clear-cut plan that I say I have or that anyone has, but you got to prioritize playing hard and living hard just as much as you work hard. So I just wanted to include that in there. Next, so taking charge of your professional future in the office. And I intentionally separated taking charge of your professional future both in the office and out of the office because they're kind of different, but we can start with in the office. So make it a point to talk to your manager on an ongoing basis about your career goals, not just at an annual review, but keep the dialogue going and continue to share your aspirations. So this is something that's really important to me, and I had to learn the hard way that you really have to be vocal about what you want, what you're interested in, and what you're looking for and what you need. And now I've been at L Brands about 7 months, and it's been going really, really good. And I think part of that is because I've been very open and honest about what I want this work experience to be like for me, the level of mentorship that I want and need, or guidance that I need from my supervisor and manager. Also, I had a meeting just yesterday with my supervisor just to discuss what the opportunities for growth are in the company. What is the next step from the senior community relations specialist? How can I get promoted in the next 2 years? Like, being comfortable having those candid conversations helps you to create your career plan, and it helps you to be strategic about what you need to do and how quickly you need to do it in order for you to reach those goals and move up the ladder. And I know that probably sounds it sounds easier than it may be because not every supervisor and not every manager is open to having those conversations or may even have the time. But again, your professional growth, development, and future is in your hands. So you really do have to be comfortable, know what you want, and verbalizing that. Next is meet with leadership throughout the company. People talk, and having other leaders know you and their ability to speak highly of you goes a long way. Excuse me. It goes a long way. And again, it goes back to mentors and sponsors and coaches. You don't always have to lean on the people you report to. Having a level of support within the company is really important. And again, it goes back to those unwritten rules and how you can navigate them by having guidance from others around you. If there's a particular role or career path you're interested in, speak to a colleague in that role, find out what training, skills, and experience is needed to be successful in that role, and what your colleague's own career path is. I have a lot of peer mentors or peer sponsors. Prior to coming over to L Brands, I was very, very interested in community relations and philanthropy. And I spent a lot of time reaching out to companies like L Brands and other companies within the community that are pretty similar in regards to community relations and philanthropy. And I spent time reaching out to people and having coffee chats with people. And it all worked out because when the opportunity became available to work for the company and doing exactly what I wanted to do, they remembered me and they thought about me. So I would just keep that in mind. If you know what you want, try to connect with somebody who is already in that position and talk to them about how they got there. Next, your organization probably has really great tools that can help you work towards your career goals. The important thing is to remember that you're in control. Whatever you want or whatever you're looking for in regards to your career development is truly in your hands. You really just have to speak up and seek those things because the resources are typically there, but you'll be surprised that it's not always listed or easy to find. So I also wanted to mention taking charge of your professional future outside of the office, because your professional growth, it it does not just live within the hours of 9 to 5 in your office and with your team. You really have to also prioritize the things that you do outside of the office to help you to continue to grow as a leader and a professional. So if you're interested, take classes, continue to be a learner. I mentioned this before, volunteer and join community boards. Those are things that will help to continue to strengthen your leadership skills. I know I mentioned before that I serve on several boards, and Chanel mentioned in my bio that I'm president of a young professional organization within the city of Columbus. And it's helped me tremendously in continuing to sharpen my leadership skills. Another thing is seeking out people who have the career path you aspire to have. So we discussed that a little bit before, finding a mentor. I can't stress that enough. Reading books, articles, blogs daily if possible. Again, this goes back to just being open to being a lifetime learner. Blogs and articles are things that I try to spend my time doing at least for a few minutes a day, primarily before I get to the office. I try not to spend that time reading blogs and articles while I'm there, but you'll be surprised the continued tips and things that you get on how you can be a better working professional. Another thing, attend conferences. A lot of companies have resources to support employees who want to continue professional development and to attend conferences and workshops. So try to find those resources within your companies if you can. And even if you have to put your own personal resources into attending a conference at least once a year, I would highly encourage it. Another thing, continue to work on your soft skills. So networking, face-to-face interactions with people. I try to tell people all the time, don't be slaves to social media or just working through phone and email and things like that. You'll be surprised that face-to-face interaction is still a crucial skill when it comes to your career growth, development, and also just building your network. So always continue to work on those soft skills. Join professional groups that continue networking, connecting to different people, not just within your organization, but without your organization, can help in finding new career opportunities. If you're ever ready to leave your current position or you want to just continue to see what are the other opportunities out there for me, having those connections and those networks will help you. And professional groups are a great way to do that. I'm a part of a few national organizations. Lastly, set quarterly professional development goals. This is something that I do personally. I know I mentioned before setting an annual career plan, but it's really good to go back and check that plan and those strategies that you listed annually, just to make sure that you're on track and you're checking yourself about whether or not you've reached some of the goals that you have set. And sometimes interests and different things can change. So I know that was a mouthful, but hopefully it was a helpful mouthful. I am open to take any questions that you might have, or if there's anything that I failed to mention in the presentation, I'm open to all questions.
Great. Thanks, Habiba. Thank you for that presentation. Just a reminder, everyone, if you would like to send any questions in, feel free to send them in through the chat box. I will retrieve them and read them out loud. Okay, so our first question is, what exactly is a Young Professionals Network, and how do we find one where we live?
So a Young Professional Network, I'm not sure like what company you might work for, but a lot of companies and organizations have Young Professional Networks or business resource groups. They're kind of called different things depending on where you work, but that's a quick and easy way to get connected. And I think you can typically reach out to like your HR office to figure out how to get connected to that professional group within your organization. But outside of that, I know there are a lot of national organizations as well. So I know there are some for business organizations. I personally am a part of like the National Urban League Young Professionals. Um, in regards to where you're living, it's honestly like a quick Google search, or at least that's what I did when I moved to the city of Columbus because I'm originally from New York. But just type in young professionals in whichever city you're in just to see what pops up so you can get a sense of it. I'm also not sure how connected you are to just the social scene within your city. Social media is also another great tool to use in trying to get connected to professional networks, or word of mouth is always great. It's something I still use. So those are just some quick thoughts.
Yeah, and to second that, you talked a lot about different community boards and organizations, and I've noticed that, even with a few boards, American Heart Association or Komen, they all have young professional groups. So I'm starting to see a lot of just organizations, large apartment organizations that are opening or starting young professional groups within their organization. And or if there's not one, then there's always opportunity to start one. So let's see. It looks like we have another question here. What motivates you to complete your many professional service and community-oriented goals? You must be a wonderful multitasker.
Thank you. I like to think that I am a good multitasker. It does take a lot of work, but again, just going back to honing my time management and organizational skills has been key in me being able to keep a full-time job and also serve on several boards and also find time to volunteer within the community. What motivates me is volunteerism has always been ingrained in me. It's something that's really important to me, especially as a young person. I do find that it's really just a part of my responsibility as somebody who lives in this community, and I like to find ways to give back and also to bring my friends to participate in it. So Chanel is somebody that I've dragged along the way in participating in a lot of the things that I do. So volunteerism it's always been super important to me, and I learned early on in my time at Ohio State as a student, you have to venture off campus and you really have to figure out how the professional world functions. And I learned early on that everything does not happen in the office, and it doesn't always happen in the classroom. You really have to figure out how to connect with people and work with people, and volunteerism has always seemed to be an easy window for me to learn those skills, and it's helped me along the way. So.
We received another question. It says, did you personally always know that what you wanted to do or what field you wanted to be in? I'm nearing 30 and still have no idea. It is really straining on my development because everything's so focus driven now. What is your advice for someone wandering lost in the professional world?
Oh my gosh, you're living my life. So I understand exactly how you feel. I got my degree in nutrition and community health with a minor in public health from Ohio State. And I thought that I was going to be a doctor or a nurse. And I quickly veered off of that path once it became time to graduate. I took I wanted to go to graduate school initially, but I decided to take a year just to work and gain some experience. And in that time, I realized that my interests were shifting and there were other things that I wanted to do. And I was around, I want to say I was like 23 around that time, and I was really like stressed and depressed about the fact that I wasn't necessarily following my initial plan. I would encourage you to just be open and be flexible to the process. Um, I again, what I initially wanted to do isn't what I'm currently doing now. Volunteering is something that really helped me figure out what my true interests were, and don't be so stuck on wanting to figure it out all right now. I like I said, I just started my job at L Brand about 6 months ago, and I'm so like I love community relations and philanthropy, but I turned 30 a week ago, and already I'm thinking, okay, what are the next steps? How am I going to grow in this position? What does community relations and philanthropy look like 5 years from now or 2 years from now? But it'll come to you. Don't be so stressed about figuring it out. It will come to you, but try to again volunteer or talk to people who are in different positions or in different fields that you might be interested in, and just talk to them about what they do and what the career field is like. And those conversations will help you figure out what you want to do, but don't be caught up in your age and time.
Before we wrap up, I guess I have one question to ask you. Since you talked about time management, I wanted to know if you had any tools that you could share with us. I personally love Doodle when I'm trying to schedule meetings with a huge group of people, just trying to get a couple of different dates out there to kind of narrow it down to find one. I also use Calendly to send out, meeting notices to people that work outside of my company for them to see what my availability is. And I also use just the old-fashioned just agenda. Where are you with tools? Do you have any that you use, or are you kind of old-fashioned with the agenda?
I'm so old fashioned. I just like I'm the type of person that walks around with a planner still, and I know that seems ridiculous because you can find an app for everything now, but writing things down really does help me remember stuff. Like I'll write stuff down on the to-do list that I have in my home office, and I'll always go back and I'll just check it to see what I need to do. But yeah, I'm really old-fashioned. I just write stuff down. I do use Doodle when it comes to like setting up meetings and things with folks, but yeah, I don't have too many tools. I think I may need to start using some, but for the most part, I'm pretty old-fashioned.
Okay, good. Well, we want to thank everyone for joining today. Habiba, special thank you to you. Habiba's contact information is listed there if you would like to stay connected or reach out to her outside of today's webinar. One last thing I also wanted to share with you all. So today's webinar will be recorded and uploaded to our Central Penn's YouTube channel. So if you want to revisit anything or share it with anyone that was unable to make it, feel free to do so. If you're interested in serving as a speaker next year, or if you have an Access Granted webinar topic, please send it to me via email. My contact information is listed there. I also want to give a special thank you to my team, the professional development team, myself, Steve Hassinger, Chad, who's on and off the call, and he's probably traveling, Diane and Adam. Couldn't have done this without you all, so I appreciate you all and thank you for your support of the Alumni Council. All right, and our next chat is in June, so I hope that you all will join us. And thank you.